The United States won their 9th Pan American Games title, 3 points ahead of Canada. Brazil came in with a bronze medal, and we're going to give you an abridged version of everything that happened in the team final because we are all busy and don't always have time to listen to hour-long podcast about gymnastics. For those of you new here, I'm Kensley, and I'm the host of Neutral Deductions, a podcast all about men's gymnastics.
This is the Neutral Deductions podcast, men's gymnastic news, coverage, and analysis. Hosted by Kensley Behel.
The Pan American Games are a multi-sport event that take place every 4 years in the year specifically before the Olympic Games. However, it is a bit of an abridged competition. So unlike the Olympic Games or the World Championships, where you have a qualification round for team finals, all-around finals, and event finals, at this particular Pan American Games, they were doing a qualification for all-around final and event finals, but that qualification day also served as the team final day. So there were 9 teams that ultimately put up a quote-unquote qualifying team score. And they were split into 2 subdivisions, 1 and 2. So in the first subdivision, there were 5 teams, and in the second subdivision, there were 4 teams. In the first subdivision, we had Canada, Chile, Argentina, Mexico, and Puerto Rico. And Canada actually ended up sending the exact same team that they sent to the World Championships, which was just a few weeks ago. So I'm sure the athletes were actually quite tired coming into this competition. But they ended up doing very well in their subdivision. They got a 246, which was really sort of a mix of what they got at the World Championships. So at the World Championships, during qualifications, they got a 249, which was a really good score for them. And then in the team final, they got a 243, which was low for them. So this 246 feels very representative of what this team can do right now. Based on the results from the first subdivision, Canada's 246 was really the only competitive score going for a team spot. So we knew it was likely going to come down to them. And then some teams in the second subdivision, we just didn't know what order they were going to be in. So at the end of the first subdivision, Canada was in first with a 246.794. Argentina was in second with a 238.995. Mexico was in third with a 234.262. Chile was in fourth with a 228.594. And in fifth was Puerto Rico with a 164.129. So the second subdivision had the U.S., Brazil, Colombia, and Cuba. And the U.S. was certainly the favorite for this title as they could easily pass that 246 mark even with several falls. However, the U.S. was starting on high bar, which is not their best event. And so we knew that it was likely that they were going to be a little bit farther down the standings at the end of the first rotation. The U.S. had an okay showing on high bar. It was about average for what these athletes could put up. Brazil was starting on parallel bars and they had a pretty good rotation for them. And then Cuba was starting on vault and they really knocked it out of the park and they shot up to the top of the standings, which was a bit unexpected for most spectators and people in the media. Now, vault is a really high scoring event, but Cuba has not been competitive in gymnastics as a team in a really long time now. Through the 90s, they were extremely competitive, but it's been a while since they've been really up there with the best as a team. And so this was really exciting and sort of created some drama for the second subdivision. Hey, would you mind taking a moment and liking this video and subscribing to our channel? We have a goal of making it to 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year so we can help share men's gymnastics coverage with the rest of the world. And having likes and subscribes really does help that happen. So please join me, help me spread the word about men's gymnastics, and let's get back to our programming about the Pan American Games. In the second rotation, Brazil was headed to high bar where they have Arthur Nori, who's the 2019 world champion on high bar. And he did a pretty good routine, but he did have a few bobbles. It wasn't as clean as we have always seen from him. But Brazil went pretty well through high bar. The U.S. went okay on floor. It wasn't great. It wasn't awful. And Cuba was moving over to parallel bars where they were really able to capitalize on the momentum from the first rotation. So following the second rotation, Brazil shot to the top of the standings, followed by Cuba, and then the United States was in third, followed by Canada. And Brazil was able to maintain their lead through the third rotation, but it was Canada who topped the standings after the fourth rotation. So at this point in the competition, we're after the fourth rotation, the U.S. is in third, but they had their two highest scoring events coming up, vault and parallel bars. And this was going to be the moment where they had to make up for sort of the hole that they may have dug themselves in from high bar or some of their other weaker events. And their vault rotation was really clean. Now, one difference from this team versus the team that was at the World Championships was the difficulty. So at the World Championships, the team was able to put up a 6-0 difficulty, a 5-6, and another 5-6 difficulty. Here, they were only competing 5-2 difficulty vaults. And that really does make a difference specifically on vault, because vault is an event where the execution scores really are pretty similar. And so having that higher difficulty really does typically end up in that reward. It's not always like other events where upgrading is more likely to cause problems or falls. Like if you can upgrade vault and do it safely, it's going to come out in your favor. Now, that being said, they were still able to move up the standings. So following the 5th rotation, they were in 2nd place, less than 1/10 of a point behind Canada, and they still had their strongest event left to go. So even though parallel bars was their strongest event, it was not as clean as they would have hoped it to be. So Cameron Bach went up, he sat his to pelt. Colt Walker, who is usually just absolutely solid on this event, he was sort of walking all over the place and having arches. And Curran Phillips, who is world class on this event, he fell off pretty early, though he still did end up making and qualifying to the parallel bar final. And it was really only Donnell Wittenberg who went cleanly on this event through the day. But nonetheless, the U.S. did manage to take the title by over 3 points ahead of Canada. And like I said earlier, Brazil did come in 3rd. So rounding out the competitors, in 4th was Argentina, in 5th, Mexico, in 6th, Cuba, Colombia was 7th, Chile was 8th, and in 9th was Puerto Rico.
Neutral Deductions is your exclusive gymnastics news platform focused entirely on men's gymnastics. If you'd like to support the show and help promote men's gymnastics, kindly consider making a donation through the PayPal link provided in the show notes. All donations are greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you so much for tuning in to hear about what happened at the Pan American Games. Please remember to like and subscribe. And if you would like to help us out financially, we are still looking for about $441 to help us cover the cost of getting to the World Gymnastics Championships to bring all of those interviews to you live. So if you have the financial resources to do so, I'll link our PayPal down below, and I would really appreciate any donation that you're able to give. Thank you again for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.